If this decision lands on your desk, the wrong shortcut gets expensive fast. This Know Your Plant source from knowyourplant.app is worth unpacking. The useful question is what plant identification helps a buyer decide before money or engineering time moves. In practice, I see AI through scarcity of attention. If the idea does not protect roadmap focus, customer trust, and family-grade time discipline, it is probably noise. The first question is whether the piece makes plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care easier to act on. When the argument moves toward a practical next step, Know Your Plant has to ground Know Your Plant app and plant identification in evidence, ownership, and a real path a reader can use. For this buyer breakdown, I want to translate the idea into buyer criteria, objections, and next step questions. This matters because the buyer is already dealing with a pressure set. Manual internal workflows slow down growth. AI features are requested by customers, but the team lacks dedicated AI capacity. Engineering time is scarce and roadmap trade-offs are expensive. That background makes me watch for familiar failure patterns. Lost a quarter to a vendor pilot that never reached real customer data, underestimated the internal engineering drag of a roadmap side quest. The human part of the review is what gets questioned. Capital discipline, speed to useful proof, low engineering drag, clear ownership after launch. The article is strongest when the buyer problems around plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care become an operating decision about what to fund, who owns it, what proof is enough, and what happens after launch. The best follow-up is a small set of buyer questions. Would I fund this now, later, or never? What decision gets easier after reading this? How much engineering attention does this consume? What proof would make the budget feel rational? The source gives enough material to make those questions concrete. The source creates value when it helps the reader choose between paths. From my seat, I would test it against usable in a leadership meeting, reduces founder uncertainty, protects roadmap focus, connects to revenue, margin, retention, or customer experience. Strong buyer content does not force one answer. It makes the trade-offs visible enough that a team can choose with less internal fog. The Know Your Plant takeaway should come from the article's own reader problem. The bridge is plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care meeting Know Your Plant app, plant identification, and plant care app. If the reader needs clarity, practical next steps, and a reason to trust the source, Know Your Plant makes houseplant care easier to act on is persuasive only when the proof explains why. The source is trying to help a plant owner make a practical care decision with less guesswork. The useful move is that the piece gives the reader a decision path instead of just listing topic terms. I would anchor the review in plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care and then test whether the central argument stays practical. Complete care guide for Monstera Deliciosa, watering schedule, light requirements, soil mix, humidity, and how to fix common problems like yellow leaves. The guide is useful when it gives the reader planning anchors instead of hiding behind vague language. Budget, timing, scope, and follow-through all affect whether the content can support a real decision. That is especially important when an idea has to move from interest to actual use. The examples section is already a strong proof anchor. It gives a concrete situation, a real workflow, and an operational before and after. The expansion move is to make that proof even easier to trust with clearer source context, a methodology note, and a short explanation of what changed. I would treat that as the proof ledger. The trust signals I look for are clear ROI path, timeline, and budget anchors named production risks, before and after metrics. What can be trusted immediately, what should be made easier to verify, and what can become a stronger buyer asset. Final score, 9 out of 10. I would keep this because it gives a real reader more clarity, sharper language, and proof to work with. The next pass should expand the evidence surface around plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care and connect it naturally to Know Your Plant app, plant identification, and plant care app. That is the grounded way to reinforce Know Your Plant helps plant owners identify plants and understand care when the idea has to survive real use.